And by the way, ladies, if they're going to bully us, they're going to bully us into billions. That's the only time we should be bullied. And
There
so,
you have it. Now you're speaking my language. Everything we do, our goal is for you to learn, execute, evaluate it, and then repeat it, right? I don't just want to have you go out and do stuff and don't know why. I don't want to teach you something or expose you to a topic and then there's no application and then also no accountability, on it. So that's our goal, small digestible bites. And I think that this does this for you. So breathe. You don't have to worry about taking heavy notes because we're going to give everything to you. You can take some and, point out, but more importantly, just enjoy the conversation and look forward to hearing your feedback. Okay. Let's talk about going to the why you portion of this, your background, and just letting our listeners and viewers of this know just a little bit about yourself. And as it relates, I know we could
there we go.
we could do a whole book on you and a whole series, but as it relates to funding and advocating for, women founders, what would you like to tell us about you?
What would I say? Well, as you know, my name is Towanda Livingston, and if you don't know by now, I say it everywhere I go, everywhere I speak. I am a Philly native, tried and true. I not only love my city, I'm in love with my city. My husband and I were born and raised there, educated there. My heart is there, my head is there, and that's why I keep my willing hands there in that city. Of course, I have acronyms behind my name, but if those acronyms doesn't lead me to serve more and do more and uplift people more, then they're for naught. So you can definitely check out the acronyms and education and certifications after my name, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because of purpose. The economic inclusion is not something I chose, it chose me. And it chose me at a very young age when folks had enlightened me that if you change a person's economic stance in life, it changes everything. It changes their access to medical care. It changes their access to education. It helps them to own homes and start businesses and just the whole generations that come after them. So when I was exposed to supplier diversity early on in the 90s, mid 90s, it was an eye-opening experience for me because when I went to school, I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to be an international lawyer. I was going to go save women and children around the world from white slavery, human trafficking. And then I just got tired of being broke in college, right? So went out into the workforce, right? And decided to go working. But like I said, this chose me. So my purpose was going to find me wherever I was. And that's it, ladies. What's for you is not going to miss you. It's going to keep on nagging at you. It's going to keep keeping you up at night. So I got on the steering committee and ended up on a steering committee related to supplier diversity, community outreach, starting employee resource groups and things of that nature. It was a whole company initiative. So recognizing that the economic ladder does not have to be linear, right? In fact, I don't believe in economic ladder, because minorities and women at the bottom of the ladder, I believe in dismantling it. So recognizing that when you push people up that proverbial ladder, the line of sight to what they can achieve changes because nothing is impossible on the side of heaven really opened the doors for me, right? And all my mentors that supported me, and that's key that you have mentors that supported me and guided me in this purpose, whether they knew it or not. They were guiding me and directing me and imparting to me wisdom to help me to fulfill this purpose. So earlier on, people were talking about leveling the playing field. They were talking about uh, women, at that time, women needed a man to go to a bank to get a loan. I mean, there were so many environmental things that were impacting the flow and the power of women. It compelled me to go forward and be an advocate for women. I was not going to level a playing field that was broken for minorities and women, that was not designed for women and minorities to play on, yet alone win on. It was time for us to come down from the nosebleed section. Don't settle for getting splinters in our ass by sitting on the bench, but making a way for folks to get on the field.
What's the best thing you ever did for growing your business funding?
Finding like-minded individuals who, signed on to my vision and my purpose, and their vision and purpose complemented mine. So we pooled our resources, including our finances, which helped to multiply my business aspiration. Or depending on who was leading, would multiply their business aspirations when I signed on to their vision and mission. So that was the number one thing, right? Because what I know for sure is that we don't have to go it alone anymore. You
Yeah.
have to find the right person with the willing hands and the deep enough pockets who believe in your vision, mission, and purpose. What we know, I know I'm preaching to the choir, Naomi, is that as an entrepreneur, when we say working on your business and in your business, the idea is to move you up so you're working on your business every day. If you're spending more time in your business than on your business, I can attest to you, you will be out of business within the first to 5 years, 1 to 5 years. Because what is unique about an entrepreneur is that they're advancing their mission. I'm sorry, advancing their vision and mission, right? They're out there promoting. And guess what? They are recruiting champions and disciples who are also promoting that. That's what your network does, right? It is making that connection. You planted the seed in someone's head, they enter a room that you never entered, and they speak your name to life in that room, which leads to bigger deals and other opportunities. So advancing your mission is a vision, and mission is something you must do every day. The second thing we know for sure is that working on your business, you must build solid systems and infrastructure that exchange money for value. That's one of the key architecture of entrepreneurship, right? Is that you gotta have systems that are working and delivering value. And one way you can continue to deliver value is make sure you have a solid, financially sound cash flow into your business that is generating a net profit, where that's another way you can invest in your business, right? Taking that net profit and reinvesting it into your business. And I think that one of the other things that is really poignant, and I think we gloss over, Naomi, is that we have to increase the value of our assets. So folks typically think of their assets as tangible things, and they are. But what about those intangible things, like this conversation we're having today, like doing a TED talk, doing a 10-step guide, you selling those like a pamphlet or a booklet or writing a book or paid public speaking engagement, like multiplying the value of those assets is a great way to not only advance the vision of your business and grow your bottom line, but also attract investors.
So I actually just want to pause there for 1 second and ask you, Naomi, how surprised you were when Tawanda's answer to what's the best thing you've done for funding your business was collaborate.
Well, I wasn't that surprised because
That's good.
of what she does. But I think it's important for everyone, as you talk about grants and funding, one of the things that we're getting into is that it isn't just about a list or just about, an entity that's providing the grants. It is about who you know in that network to help you to access that, because it's sort of impossible for you to go through all of that yourself. So I wasn't that surprised about that. And I'm happy that she brought that to the surface. Did anybody have, I did want to say though, before you started again, that we do have a Project 50 template, and that template helps you to sort of gather the resources of people that you have and capital that you may have that can help you to leverage some of these grants, which we get into a little bit. So if you're interested in that list or in that template, I should say, to help you to create that list and to cipher through your contacts, please just put your email in the chat and we'll get that to you. You can go ahead, Max. Thanks.
One of the biggest things that folks want to know is how do you go about finding grants and funding, right? Like search engines are confusing, right? How do we know this information is trustworthy, right? We're really busy. We have, right? Female founders are juggling a lot. What are some strategies for sort of locating this kind of funding?
So locating funding, let me just say grant scouting is a 24/7 job, and we don't have 24/7 to do it because you can make more money, but you can't make more time. So let's invest this wisely.
Yes.
So there are enough folks out there that are scouting grants and information for you that you want to tap into. So it depends on the type of grants that you're pursuing. Federal government grants, you need to go to grants.gov. It's just it. And you can search the tool. It's a really mature tool. So you can search that tool to find out some grants to find, that aligns with what the services you want to bring to constituents. Now, in reference to nonprofit and private sector grants, you want the grant information to come to you so you can have the right of refusal. It does still require somebody to vet those grants, but make sure you're setting up your Google alerts, your LinkedIn alerts, so that you can be notified when those grants are being posted, new grants are posted. But let's cut to the chase. You can subscribe to Hello Alice, who partners with organization that brings grants. Subscription is free. You can go and subscribe to I Fund Women or follow them, who partners with private sector organization to bring grants to women-owned businesses.
And we now have our Her Corner portal.
So don't forget about Her Corner grant portal. And so this is one of the valuable things of having Her Corner, being a member of Her Corner and having this portal at your fingertips is that someone has already did the scouting of the grant. Now you have to do the vetting, right? So you have the U.S. Small Business Chamber. They have a newsletter called Midnight Oil, and it lists some of their grants, but they do a great job of scouting not only grants, but other funding resources. So all of that information, Maggie, can be very daunting, right? It's just like going after contracting opportunities in public and government sector. You have all these contract opportunities coming to you, but are they the right opportunities to pursue? So you're going to need to have some type of vetting criteria. Either you're going to set it up in AI. This is the game changer, lady. Responsible AI. Either you're going to set up on AI and let it screen it for you and then provide you with the relevant grants, or you're going to have a person, some type of tool that goes through that. Now, they do have, I should say, they have these grant subscription services you can pay for, databases and things of that nature. But why do that when you have Her Corner in your back pocket, right? So, but the information is out there. You can also go to free resources like the Small Business Development Center, the Women Business Development Center, certification agencies. Everyone is pulling in grants, especially after the pandemic. Now, grants were always available, but during the pandemic, when we saw businesses struggling, more and more grants came about. And more importantly, other types of grants from corporate America, private sector came about as well, due to the George Floyd situation and other social issues that compelled corporate America to do something for the people who are buying their goods and services. So there are a lot of places to find grants, but don't get frustrated. Be patiently persistent. Have a checklist. One of the things you can do is have a checklist of all the demographics of your business, what type of industry you're in. Set up your alerts for that. Have it come through your AI solution, right? Vet them so that either at the end of the week, beginning of the week, or middle of the week, you're checking those lists. Or you can, like, follow me, follow Naomi, follow others, and they're posting grants. But that's not going to help you if you're already inundated with work.
Yeah, I think you make up a good point. And what I would say, Maggie, the only caveat that I have to everything that Towanda said is great is just start with two. Because it can be so overwhelming. One, obviously, Her Corner is helpful from a vetting standpoint and picking categories, but then pick one or two that you just let's see if it's specific to your industry, the types of things that they offer and that they have, and see if you can create that habit, whether that is you did the AI filter or whether that is you have someone and maybe that person is part-time. Maybe you can collaborate with someone else, another fellow sister boss who, hey, let's together hire somebody for 90 days to work on solely grants and funding opportunities. And that
But
way you're sharing some of that cost and can make a good return on investment, just getting you into the practice and making this a part of your business. Because I think some people start and like, okay, I got it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take all this information. And the moment that it doesn't immediately have some return, it's like, oh, I did it, I tried it, and what have you. So maybe there's a way to kind of wet your feet a bit and get into this process. And that's just a suggestion, that I would offer.
but here's the deal, though. I'm glad people, but I just want to step back a bit, and we need to be candid in this conversation.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for something from a short-term debt standpoint, or you got something immediate that you need to pay, or you're having cash flow problems, grants is not it, right?
That's true.
Grants is going
Now we
because
go to the funding
grants
part.
is not, people say it's free money, but free is all relative, right? Because it
Still
does
work.
come from some strings attached to it by the grantor because they're looking to fulfill a need or something. So, grant is not is free money. I'm putting quotes in the air. However, you want to be strategic about what grants you're going to pursue if that's something that you want to do because it's not a reliable source of income. It's just like being in the lottery. And today, grants are more competitive than ever. There's fewer grants and a lot more competition. So you really have to be targeted about and strategic about your approach in pursuing grants. Yes, you could pick one or two or what have you, but make sure you do your homework, do your due diligence on that organization, their value system, what they're trying to do, and see if it is aligned. Because a misalignment will open you up to potential risk as well. And I do want to share 3 risks by the time we end when you're pursuing grants. But grants is the low man on your funding totem pole when you're pursuing some alternative funding. It's great when you win it because you now say if you win a grant with FedEx or someone else, now you're now associated with that brand and it opens you up to their customer base. Now you've been exposed to so it does come with some added benefits, even if you're not the winner. It does come with some benefits, but I want you to be cautious, 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 because if you're looking for something with a quick term return on investment, this is not it. You must be patiently persistent with grants, and that requires a strategy in your cash flow portfolio. A little slither could be grant as you build your muscle. Read,
Yeah, we can.
or you want me to name the risk? You want the risk now, or
No. You can go ahead and speak to you just mentioned grants and it being a portion, a slither to quote you,
sliver? Right, slither.
of your funding efforts, which I totally
Mhm.
agree with. We don't want people to get fatigued from just looking at grants and the return on investment. And that's what we talked about is you have to decide, depending on your industry, what your ROI would be with that. Now, if we looked at funding and there's a couple of different sources of funding we just want to hit real quickly. And of course, we will, I'm sure, have more information for everyone that we will provide. But just in your experience, and Maggie, I don't know if you got a particular question about that, but just where we are right now,
Mhm.
where should we look for non-grant funding?
Non-grant funding. So non-grant funding so you have, when you think about funding your business, you got to look at it when you're looking at your cash portfolio. You're going to have either you're going to fund it through some type of debt instrument, either line of credit, loan, and of course the SBA still underwrites loans. They do microloans. You have the local initiative organization. They do some lending. There is the Small Business Initiative Credit. I'll get you the exact name, but that funding was given to state and local municipalities so that they can provide loans, competitive readiness opportunities for businesses, or direct investment with some equity contribution. So those are some non-grant initiatives. But so when you think about how you're going to give seed funding to your business, don't miss that you still have crowdfunding, you have your own bootstrapping, where you're investing your own money or the net profit from your business. Some of you who need seed funding and leaving corporate America, it may be the ROBS program, which is roll over your business for startup, so you don't receive any penalty if you use your IRA or 401k to start your business. So, I mean, there's angel investors. So the other way you fund your business through, giving away equity, right? So either you're going to go through angel investors or you're going to sell some type of equity in your business to get some funding inside your business. So there are a lot of ways that you have to consider, vet, and discuss it with your financial person, your advisors, as well as your legal advisors, which is the best approach for you. Some people use factoring. I'm not a big proponent of factoring, where you're selling off your receipts from contract work, because it is like, for me, from my perspective, just from my lens, it could be like predatory lending because of the whimsical interest rates. However, I'm not chastising you or your business if you're using factoring. That's the way you run your business.
Ms. Brown, could you help us understand like equity and factoring a little bit better? Because I know as we were having this conversation with Towanda, I was like, what now?
Yeah, sure, no problem. We do have some frameworks. Am I okay? Okay, we do have some frameworks that go into depth about exactly what it is, but when you talk about founders selling some of their equity or giving some of their equity away, every time you open, and if you did any corporation paperwork, and in that corporation paperwork, it said you are 100% owner or 50% owner, whatever that ownership is. And if you're a stock company, like there's 100 shares of your company and you own all 100 shares. When you talk about equity, it is saying, I'm going to give 5%, 10%, 50%, whatever, for them giving you money, and they then in turn get equity in your company because now they have a share. So that is what that is. And the concept, the most basic of explanation that I can give. And so some people feel that, that gets into, and you probably heard it on Shark Tank and some other places, that just gets into, and the fights that always happen is if I give someone this amount and this person this amount, and I always want to keep 51% so that I have the power to make the decisions that I want to make in my company. Some people don't care about that at all. So depending on how you feel and how much you're asking for, that's when you can get into an area where you're battling and you have to, you always have someone to answer to, which is your clients. But now you also have this additional partner who has ownership in your company. Now, whether they are a silent person or more active, that's going to depend on the investor or person. When it comes to factoring, as she mentioned, what typically happens in the factoring is you have a contract and you're working on something, and that said contract, you're getting it. You have a year contract or a 6-month contract, and you get $5,000 a month on that contract. Right now, you need $5,000, and it is, let's just say, a week before your monthly installment is coming, or there is something holding up that monthly installment. So you need that now, and you can sell that, factor it to a factoring company who says, I will give you that 5,000, but you need to pay me back. Anyway, it could be anything, 6,000 for it, or you need to pay me. And some people even go up to 7,000 because it can be a range of, it used to be the term hard money used to be a lot synonymous with that, but it used to be 10 to 12%. Up to 20, 25, and now sometimes it's 15, 20% is the lowest, up to 50, 60%. And if you're doing that, unfortunately, a lot of times, unless you have a consistent cash flow or this is a one-off experience, you then are digging a hole. So very similar to credit card debt, you have this tangible thing and you buy it, but now it's involving your business. And so it's a case-by-case basis, and depending on the interest rate, and that's that. So not giving out legal or tax advice, but that's just a very basic explanation of it. And I hope that's helpful to.
And also, I want to just bring up a point is that the economic and the financing environment has changed. There are more and more women investing in other women. So seek out angel investors that focuses on women. And we have her corner members who have title, right?
Yep.
They're angel investors, right? And then you have banks that are credit unions and banks that are run by women that are looking to support women-owned businesses as well. Go where you're celebrated and not tolerated, right?
Yeah.
Build that relationship, not for the intention of what you're going to get, but how can I serve? Because I believe if you serve people better, the profits and the revenue streams will come. Look into your industry. There are industry specific grants and other industry specific funding opportunities that you may want to pursue as well. There are local and state grants. So there are grants that are designed by the economic development divisions of localities and states that are specific for their constituents. You can find those grants either at your small business development center, at your economic development center, your Department of Commerce. Those entities will be focused on stimulating the local economy, and they offer grants as well. So federal, state, local. And then don't forget about the private and nonprofit sector who administer grants on behalf of the private sector as well. But I like to say start local, right? See what's in your own backyard. That's your tax dollars actually at work, right? So all they're doing is giving you back the money that you've invested in taxes. So do your research. Again, I do want to also point out that, let me just state that even though there's a chilling effect related to anti-DI movement, there are still organizations that are committed to not taking steps to address the barriers of women-owned businesses face, but they're taking a stand in it. I'm here to tell you, ladies, what's happening in our environment today is not new. It has happened many times over, and it was preparing us for this very moment.
Right, and you being prepared doesn't mean, and I'm not here to sell rose-colored glasses or say, like,
No.
yeah, you might feel a little pinch, you may have to do some things, and that's a part of what this conversation is about, right? Is how do you make it so your infrastructure looks at more ways to achieve revenue? And I think we alluded to some of that earlier.
Without losing yourself, without losing your mission, your
Without
values.
losing your mission and such. And as the government, the federal government, has sort of changed the focus of what money is going where and why, and it's kind of chaos in terms of figuring it out because things are moving so quickly. Focusing on your state and local economies is a very important thing to do, because the money is there for those things. And again, going back to those fundamentals, having a library, creating some consistency around these efforts will reap you rewards. And I think you don't look at it, this is definitely a marathon, something that you have to do. And it's building blocks and putting some things together. But it's those things that, I remember the days of selling and financial planning and what you call wake up money, stuff that you weren't planning on, and you have to have it. You have to supplement in some way, something. And the only thing that I would offer, Maggie, as we kind of close this out, is one, you have to get your mindset together to be a part of this process and figure out what you can bring to these presentations and opportunities different from other people. And it doesn't have to be something that is, neuroscience, right? It's just you do something well, you have passionate about it, you have a solution, and this is why that they should back you and what your impact is, right? The other thing is that don't get overwhelmed or feeling like let me say this, if you always feel like you're behind as it relates to grants and funding, that's normal. Like you always may feel like you don't know where everything is and you're not exactly sure if your story is completely tight, but people can definitely appreciate you're running an entire business and you're doing that. Plus, you're able to articulate and be what we would call a subject matter expert in your field and be able to show value as a solid business. So, if anything, what we are learning in these challenging times is what is most important is that you are a solid business and operating effectively, and therefore people can take a chance on you, whether it's a grant, whether it's a funding opportunity of equity, or um, funding from a private corporation, that you're worth that.
It's
Absolutely.
not in the administration's hands. It's not even in your consumer hands, right? Because it's all in your hands. How are you going to meet your consumer where they are, what issues they're following, which issues they're facing? Because you're in a business to solve a problem, to either solve a problem, provide the solution, or you're bringing something that people didn't even didn't even know they needed until you brought it to fruition. Right? So how do you continue to grow that? You continue to grow that by stretching yourselves, ladies. You must not be afraid to be a freshman at the next level. And some of us are finding us in a freshman place because of what was thrown at us, right? But it's
Yeah.
not what's thrown at us, right? It's when we take what's thrown at us and build an empire. And today, by exploring this topic courageously and honestly, we are on that path of building that empire.
That's so
You
awesome.
cannot quarantine your greatness.
Ah,
No.
okay, well, in that vein, because that
But I'm just telling you, so I'm sharing with you
Your
some
experience.
ways of funding your business. And then, like I said, the very low man on the total pole, or I shouldn't say the high woman on the total pole, is grant. It is a way because it comes with other benefits, but it also comes with risk. And one of those, it does require a significant amount of time to pursue. So three things, right? Grants today are highly competitive, limited amount. It has strings attached, right? You must find the right fit. That's an art and a science, finding the right grant. And the way you do that, like I said, make sure you have your eligibility criteria together, your business plan, your pitch deck, or whatever, because you can quickly assess, even if you use AI to do the assessment for you, and then go back and proofread it. You can quickly assess what grants you should pursue because of the tangible benefits and the intangible benefits. And then one thing we're skirting over is that the art of grants, whether you're going for a proposal, writing a formal proposal, or doing an application in a video, is having a compelling story. Right? You have to be a good writer or hire a writer. And you have to be prepared to win. I know people say you should be prepared to lose, but you need to be prepared to win because you have to have the infrastructure in place to support that grant. Because some of those grants, especially formal grants, you have to have the appropriate technology. Some of them want the matching. You have to be match the funding. So that's you got to go in eyes wide open because you have to match the funding. That's a strain on your resources, so you need to be aware of that as well. So do your homework on the organization and the grant. Make sure you have someone, either a fractional grant writer or grant manager or some. You need both of them, right? If you're not good at writing, and that, and then so those are the top three
It's the top
things I would
three.
say
I'm gonna
related
add a
to grant.
fourth. I'm gonna add a fourth to you because we always
Mhm,
have three. I'm gonna add a fourth.
mhm, mhm.
Maggie, what I would let people know is a part of where Towanda eloquently mentioned that having a library was what I consider and I always recommend is being organized, right? Having a library of these things. So one, it's easy for you to pull, it's easy for AI to pull from. It has all of your content there, so you're not starting from zero every time. The other thing that I would say is nothing replaces great fundamentals. Having a compelling story, this is where you use some of the capital, your social capital and friends that maybe they're better writers, or maybe there's someone that you can leverage to brag about you. Some of the things that is tough for us. We can brag about our business when we're selling to customers, but bragging about your organization, people use the word imposter syndrome, but also we all are in this together. No one's business is perfect. No one has every requirement that either a grant portal or an investor looking to provide you with some seed money or growth money, because it's not just about starting, right? We're here to help women business owners who already have some idea and have been running successfully, but they're looking to grow or scale. So with that in mind, I think it's important that we just let people, don't forget about the fundamentals. So a true story that everyone will know, and I don't mind saying the numbers, that when I first, well, early on to starting the business, I had to get a loan for 50,000 and a loan, I'm sorry, and a line of credit for 50,000. What I really wanted was just a line of credit, but because I was so much newer, they wanted to, well, of course they wanted to make money off of me, but the bank loans and rates were cheaper than um, anyone else. And so I actually did the loan, paid it off to establish some credit, and I was comfortable with that amount because I knew I could make that money, with what my receivables were on a monthly basis. So I paid it off. I created a history in a year. Then I had this $50,000 line of credit, never used it. When I say never used it, let me say maybe 5 years. And then I just was making the argument with them, like, I've been a customer for, this long. What am I going to do with this money based on my receivables? And because of the relationship of me going into the bank on a very regular basis, I could scan the checks in, but I would go so that people could see my face, right? Go in. I then raised that line of credit to 200,000. So now we're talking about something I can use, but it also was helpful to show my capacity when I went on to, when I was bidding for other contracts. And what I said, even when I had the 50, I used to say on the application, yes, line of credit 50,000 with the capacity to increase, right? Because I was like, yeah, I do, but I could sell and have more, because I felt like, which the other item which we will share is a personal net worth statement. And what you were saying earlier about, you have all these items. Oh, I don't have that, don't have that, don't have that, right? So I felt like I'm really broke. Like, what is this about, right? But using and learning how some of those things, we have more assets and more value than we know.
Just sort of a perfect place to pause.
Yeah, and talking about, so that's why I want to pause very quickly just to speak about assets and personal net worth. I don't know if anybody is having consideration of getting a line of credit or what to do, especially with the funding and things that are happening in the current environment. I would encourage you to still do that, and more importantly, there are ways, and let me say this, everybody on here, we have your information. We'll send you a link to reach out for a complimentary 15-minute consultation. So with all of this and just kind of filtering through it, because I know we all have to go back and work within our companies. And I know our attention spans, it's a lot to take in. So I'm more than happy to do that for people. Amanda might kill me, but it's okay. We'll do it. But I will do that. But I just want to encourage you are worth more than you know. If you think about or understood, if you don't already understand what people put down as what is valuable, what maybe you don't consider valuable or not, but really going through and understanding what banks look at in terms of numbers. I know that was one of the biggest things, is what do I put on this application? What do I put for funding, and what is the average? And and without you running my credit score, I want some sort of idea, because why waste the time? So pulling your information together so you can tell your best story is how you will be able to successfully navigate a funding and or grant space. So from the writing that she mentioned, and we'll recap this very quickly, we only got a few minutes left, but definitely please, and I'm not just saying it, take advantage of talking with me. And it's not like this hook to make you become a member. I'm here to help people. And, we, as we say, we collaborate. There is something of value that you have that you can bestow upon Her Corner. And we definitely have things of value that we can share with you. Maybe you had a major and a minor, maybe look at it like that, I often say. And now you're majoring in the fact that you're an excellent business, and minoring in some of these other, classifications that, have been put upon you. But what's most important is, how do you do your best work? How do you provide your best service? And how do you have us operations that will allow you to do all of these things.
A solid business model.
There you go.
And the only way you know your business model is solid is that it's tested. It's got to be tried in the fire. It's easy to be a queen in time of peace, but real queens, real entrepreneurs, billionaires and trillionaires that work themselves up that economic stream, if you will, that river that was rolling against them had to be tested. Had to be tested. And the only way you know if your business model is solid, if you have a solid business plan, is if it's agile. Because with the whole point of having a business plan and a strategic plan is that no matter what environmental influences come to you, your true north is still your true north. Even if you have to take a detour to get there, you're still going to get there because you built agility into your plan. You recognize that sometimes you're going to bring on partners. Sometimes you're going to have to get additional finances. Sometimes you're going to have to be bipartisan. But your true north, your core purpose, your plan, let me just say this. It's just like having a map. Even when you get detoured, if you look back at your map, you can get back on course.
People, and we literally go through everyone's, not just like go through your books, but we set goals and we try to apply the concepts using small frameworks, stuff like this, and really get into it so that you can have something to grow your business. So I hope in today's conversation, you can put in the chat, whatever you like, that you have something to take away, either some of the bullet points that we mentioned around resources and places that you can go. We will, I promise, send them to you with the actual links and how you can have access. I hope it helped with your mindset, because I think it's really important. We can have all this stuff, but if you're not ready and don't have the mindset of this is just a part of my business and what I need to do for it to successfully exist and grow, right? This isn't just something I do one time. And when you start to think of it that way, it's not a chore. It is something that you're like, whoo, you'll feel accomplished. Like, I know I invested time in furthering the financial prowess of the company. Okay.
And I am just going to jump in while we have a couple of minutes left. We just put a form into the chat. And as we are continuing to sort of grow our kind of micro learning protocols, these kinds of events where we are able to touch base in the middle of the day and help those of us who have these kind of crazy founder schedules. We would love to know how this worked for you, whether this worked for you, some things we can improve. And of course, what it is that we can do to help you, what kinds of topics we can cover to support you in these sort of turbulent times.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Don't be shy. Look forward to seeing you next month. If I don't hear some of you, actually, all of you, I should be seeing a booking on my calendar to talk with you for 15 minutes and see how I can help you. Please take advantage of that.